Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. The spotter said it was clear. It wasn't clear, and, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened, and then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I felt. I called him out. He didn't show. And so, I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out about until it was too late. It's a shame. Love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
All right, folks, welcome back to Meet Me at Applebee's, your number one unrefined motorsports podcast. We are back one more time for 2024. It is Brian here with Rob and Ashley, and I'm doing horribly, folks. How y'all doing?
I'm starting to become a human after a full weekend of sitting down here in the bar and watching racing pretty much every possible hour I could be awake. How about you, True Love?
I'm fine. I'm doing better than poor Brian.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sick me, sick dog, sick life.
Yeah.
It's great.
Brian popped into the wrong Goodwill to take a piss, and he picked up a disease, so he'll get through it.
Yeah, well, one more time I'll make it through.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. So we're not talking about F1.
Real light on NASCAR news this week.
Yeah, real light on NASCAR. Yeah. There's going to be a lot to talk about from the Gateway Nationals because Rob and I watched a whole lot of that this weekend. I know Ashley watched some of it too. Probably not as much as us, but
no, watched
probably it's a little bit of Snowball Derby. We watched a little of that too, even though it's
it was on the television down here. That's for sure.
Yeah. But I guess there's a tiny bit of NASCAR news to talk about here. What do we got on the notes here? Oh, let's see here. Starting off.
Yeah, I think this is Steve Phelps floating a little threatening, ominous cloud off in the horizon, just in time for Christmas for all the NASCAR fans out there.
Yeah, caught off the heels of everybody getting pissed off about the Truck Series uniforms. Now, he commented saying that there are potential changes to the cars in the Xfinity Series on the horizon, potentially integrating some next-gen car technology. Mm-hmm. No one likes that. No one wants to hear that. Xfinity is arguably the best series in the top three in NASCAR, I would say, at least racing quality-wise.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also, the cars are definitely the closest thing to the throwbacks as far as old technology is concerned. In saying that, you got manufacturers that don't have cars that actually can be put on the track. Like, I think the Supra's done. Camara's done.
Like Chevrolet, yeah, they don't have anything.
Yeah. So there is that stuff, and I know, there's still talk of wanting other manufacturers in the series. But yeah, some drivers, Tommy Joe Martins is the main one that I saw. He said that this is years in the future, so maybe I wouldn't stress about the next season or two, any drastic changes happening.
I mean, there are a litany of things this could mean. I mean, it could be single lug nuts. It'd be going to the sequential gearbox they have now. It could be a lot of things, so not exactly anything to worry about just yet, but the reaction should tell you everything about the temperature of the average NASCAR fan right now, because people were fucking not happy. And I certainly wasn't happy.
Steve and Jim France have not been watching recent CEO news to make this kind of announcement. Take away the one last thing that everyone can agree on that they like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there'll be a lot of extra security at the Mooresville Olive Garden for the next couple years here until we find out what it is. I, being the eternal optimist, will continue to hold on hope that it's nothing crazy, but it would make sense for them to try and bridge the gap between the next-gen car and the rest of the series. For a long time, that's kind of how it was. There was it was like the same cars pretty much with a shorter wheelbase and, a lot of the same body styles and all that, especially with the Gen 4 and all that. So can you do that with the next gen? No, not really. But yeah, so I'm very curious to see what this ends up being, and I hope it's something just like, we're we're gonna move the door numbers and that's it. That could be it. Still be annoying, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, everybody loved that move, so might as well try it.
Speaking of numbers,
yeah. So Dale Jr., we all know he won the rights to his traditional stylized 8 back from his DEI days. And I kind of figured that he'd be using that in Xfinity at some point, maybe for his own ride. But nope, Sammy Smith is going to be getting in the, at least Pilot is one of his sponsors, the number 8 car. I don't know. I mean, it's fine. The car looks fine. I don't really care for Sammy Smith, so it doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. But I'm sure some people are excited.
Yeah, at least the number's home, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pilot scheme looked good, but it definitely was. It'll take some adjusting to seeing that specific 8 on it. But the thing that annoyed me the most was when they did the big reveal, the 8 decal that they put on that blank car was crooked, and that's all I could fucking say. So.
Fuck, I gotta look at this now. I didn't even notice that.
Ruined the whole announcement for me.
Yeah, usually they're better with attention to detail than that, so that's weird.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
A little lean to it.
Well, never gonna unsee that. Thanks, True Love.
You're welcome. If I had to suffer, so does everyone else.
And nothing better to back that up than a little bit of RCR news, our collective favorite team. They're going to be running a 3rd car in Cup next year. It's a bit of an all-star car. That goes alongside some organizational changes here as well. Let's see here.
I think Austin Hill's Xfinity crew chief is going to be the crew chief on that new Cup car.
Yes, that's correct. Andy Street. Yeah, and then Danny Stockman's going to go to the Xfinity Series team to run that program. So that's good for them. I mean, they're in the throes of a major reorganization, and they have been for a while. So, and they definitely found some speed. Of course, there was a little bit of drama about that we kind of discussed on the show previously, but it seems to have worked for them, legal or not. So this could be good.
It's funny
but
it's funny you're going to call that the All-Star team because I guess that means you're calling Austin Hill an All-Star because you know he's going to be in the car the majority of the starts.
Yeah, probably. I would assume that Jesse Love's still with them, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think
he is.
Will Brown, the V8 Supercars guy who ran with them last year, I'm almost certain he's going to be coming back to run a couple races. So they got a few guys coming in there. And I love a good random-ass car in the Cup Series. And, hard to hate on that, even if it is Austin Hill. But, yeah. Don't know where he fits in the lineup of my favorite RCR driver.
hard to rank those.
Yeah, at least I don't gotta, lose sleep over, having somebody I like over there. So, speaking of teams, did you guys see that photo of? I didn't put this in the notes, but did you guys see that photo of the Roush lineup and Jack Roush in his little hat, and they look kind of. I don't know if it's supposed to be tough or if it's supposed to be whatever, but yeah, it's a real awkward prom-style photo of the whole gang. Yeah, it's not good. But yeah, that's pretty much all the NASCAR news, I think. Yeah, like I said, real slow news week on that side. Which brings us to my favorite headline of the week. I know we're not really talking about Formula One here. But I do have to bring this up because this headline was so funny. On motorsport.com's Instagram page, and I'm assuming on their main page as well, of course, Max Verstappen keeps getting fined for swearing, which is fucking hilarious. And the headline for this particular one is that Max Verstappen to serve swearing punishment in Rwanda. Which, if you don't,
that's a pretty good one.
That's good. Very extreme. Well, apparently the F1 banquet is going to be in Rwanda for some reason. Couldn't tell you why, but they. And I don't know. I guess I just remember what it was like in the 90s there with the Civil War and the rape and all that. But maybe things have gotten better in Rwanda. But it definitely fits in with Formula One's lack of any sort of awareness of dealing with countries with less than stellar records when it comes to human rights. So, makes sense to sentence Max Verstappen to 6 months on a fucking prison island in Rwanda or whatever it is, or make him not go to the banquet. I don't know. I don't see how that's punishment, but whatever. I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, great headline. Verstappen to serve swearing punishment in Rwanda. So, amazing.
all the F1 news we need.
That's all we got. Yeah, and McLaren also won the constructors championship, which is kind of cool. But
Good for them.
and True Love had her own segment last week. It went so well, and there's the week before it was recently True Love had her own segment, and it went so well that we're gonna bring it back here. And it's True Love. So what was it again? I forgot the name.
It doesn't have a title. It doesn't matter.
True Love's nameless tidbit box.
Well, it's the off season, so we're just kind of really desperate for any kind of conversation topic. So just been scraping the bottom of the barrel over here.
Yeah, we're not shutting the show down for the winter because we don't like talking to each other. That's for sure. There's just nothing to talk about.
Yeah. So a couple of really stupid things that I saw on the internet. Denny Hamlin had posted a Spotify Wrapped that he made up himself, and the top song on it was Zero Championships, and it had a picture of SpongeBob wearing a Napa hat, and Chase Elliott had reposted it and with a link to buy the hat, so that made me giggle.
That's good.
Yeah. Also, NASCAR had posted their take on Elf on a Shelf, and it was some silly stuff in there. It was like Larson on a Carson, Todd on a Cod. Yeah, but there was Briscoe on a Cisco, and Briscoe reposted it and said that he had to Google who Cisco was, which made me feel so very old.
Yeah.
That everyone knew the thong song, but I guess not.
No, I guess not at all.
No. Also, I know I went into great detail about Austin Dillon's teeth last week, so another teeth update from that camp. I had to see his best friend, Paul Swan, post up-close pictures of his teeth all over the internet this week. I guess he got Invisalign, which the before and after pictures looked exactly the same to me. But the funny part to me was he posted a picture with his orthodontist, and his orthodontist has a massive mullet, so
Nice.
that seemed fitting, yeah.
Invisalign done in the back of a Dollar General. I fuck with that.
I guess that's all the silly news. The other, minor news that I saw this week was Brendan Queen's going to go to ARCA full-time next year.
Yes, that's right. Which is cool for him, I guess.
Racing.
Yeah.
It's something.
Means I'll watch him less.
Yeah. And another change is coming that's minor next year in 2025 is the little green branding that they do around the fuel port that says get bioethanol.
Yeah.
They're no longer going to require that. So I'm curious if teams will put something else around that hole to help
Cleaning the gas holes.
find that.
Cleaning the gas holes up.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the only change that comes to the Xfinity Series that trickles down from Cup. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's about it. I do want to give a shout out to one of my racing dogs that I camped with at Bristol. I've been to a few other races with him this year. Ross, he opened up his brick and mortar restaurant down in Atlanta this past weekend.
Yes,
it's called
he did.
Mother's Best Fried Chicken. So it's been ranked as some of the best fried chicken in the South, and they've got a cool little spot, it looked like. I saw that Andy Newsom and some other people had made it down there to celebrate their grand opening. So if you're ever in Atlanta, go support some racing dogs.
Hell yeah.
Get
Mother's
yourself some
Best.
fried chicken.
It looks fucking delicious, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Have you had the chicken before, True Love?
I have not, but I'm planning on trying to get down there in the next couple weeks to check it out.
I'm sure they got fried shrimp, right?
No shrimp, just chicken.
You got to leave something in the comment box. Deeply disappointed in the lack of shrimp.
So that's it for me.
Nice. Also, quick shout out to Andy Newsom. I kind of went rogue on this one, but I think you guys agree with me. Our Applebee's patron of the year, of course, is Andy. we all love Andy for a lot of the same reasons and probably our own individual reasons, but I think the overarching theme is that he's just the nicest fucking guy you'll ever meet. And also, if you're at the racetrack with him, you know it's going to be a good day.
Yep.
And he just brings joy into everybody's life that he meets. And yeah, he's the same. He's Andy to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. And I bet you got to really try hard to piss Andy Newsom off. And even then, I bet you he'd still end up giving you a hug at the end of the night. But yeah, congrats, Andy. Sad we didn't get to see you this year. At least I didn't anyway. I know True Love, you spent some time with him. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a trophy at some point, and we'll send that to you once we build a staff of fucking Four Loko cans to mail to you.
Yeah, I appreciate him letting me share all the his crazy stories on the show because I know that is a fan favorite. So
Absolutely, yeah.
And you get to share the canned meats.
That's true. Maybe the Fan of the Year trophy would be like a Spam can on top of a fucking like bowling trophy. That's a good idea, actually.
there we go.
The Andy Newsom trophy.
Bronze Spam can.
That's good. But now we
There
gotta
you
spend
go.
money on this shit. Shit. Fuck. Anyway, speaking of categories that we hand awards out to, I'm so excited this week for our DARF of the Week. I've been hoping something would happen to where we'd be able to bestow this title upon this particular man, and god damn it, it finally happened. Dave Moody, ladies and gentlemen, everyone's favorite NASCAR shill on XM, regardless of what he thinks. It's what he is. And I got a lot of respect for Dave Moody, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to being a public-facing customer service agent, that guy sucks just about as hard as you possibly could. We haven't been blocked by him, I don't think, on Twitter, but I'm sure we'll get there, especially after this episode, because he is our DARF of the Week, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Moody. Holy fucking shit. You know, it's like you go out on the bass boat and you just wait to pull in a big one, and it just never happens. And finally, at the end of the year, you finally pull that big old fucker out of there, and here he is. And boy, it's so dumb. So the Daily Downforce, which is another content creator, sort of independent news, NASCAR Twitter account, whatever the fuck. I know they do a lot more work than that, but I don't pay attention to it. Sorry if any of those guys are listening, which they aren't, but they posted something about the upcoming iRacing supported NASCAR video game. And this actually kind of ties into some lawsuit news, which there's some of that, but I don't think any of us understand enough to talk about, so we kind of breeze past it. But here's a little wrinkle in those proceedings. Due to they posted this on Twitter a few days ago. Due to 2311 and Front Row's lawsuit with NASCAR, 2 major teams could be excluded from NASCAR 25, which is of course the name of the video game. And that's a valid point. And we've actually seen this before when it came to sponsor negotiations or, you know, just not getting contracts worked out with EA back in the mid-2000s. Like, certain drivers or sponsors would just be absent from these games.
Yeah.
And because of these negotiations and, you know, video game rights and likeness rights and, you know, all that sort of intellectual property is directly tied into these negotiations. So there's a good chance you might not see 2311 or Front Row in these games. You know, pretty straightforward, right? Well, Dave Moody took this, he completely misread the tweet and thought we were talking about them not racing, and he responded, "World-class clickbait. No one on either side of the lawsuit has said anything about 2311 and Front Row not competing in 2025. In fact, all parties have said exactly the opposite. They will compete." Which, yeah, no one was saying they weren't going to compete. They're not going to be in the fucking video game, Dave.
So, I'll say this.
Jesus.
Now, Daily Downforce is known as being a very clickbait type news source
It's
in
fair.
that sense.
That's fair.
And I will say that upon first glance, maybe if you're not as familiar with the iRacing logo or, you know, whatnot, I guess this tweet can kind of be read as like NASCAR news. But if you look a bit closer, it's like that's very clearly a screenshot from the game. And in the replies, when he was arguing with people, Dave was like, "I read the article first. That's why I tweeted about this." I'm like, well, fuckface.
No, you
if
didn't.
actually read the article, you would not be tweeting about this. Like 100%.
My favorite part about the photo that was in the original tweet from Daily Downforce, there's literally in parentheses on the screen, it says "in development stages." It's very clearly a fucking video game. And that's exactly what the article is about. So, Dave, we got you, bitch.
Yep.
DARF of the week. Oh, my God. Yes.
What really makes him the DARF on this one is he went through and blocked every single person that tried to correct him.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, and a lot of people are
typical
even
Dave
being
fashion.
Yeah.
people are being like respectful about it. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, Dave,
You
it's
know.
a video game. Come on.
Yeah.
And I would also argue that as an actual media member with a hard card and, power, since he does have an XM show and he's on MRN every fucking week, I do feel that it's important, and there is a little bit more of a responsibility for him to actually do a little bit of due diligence before flying off the handle. And then if you're wrong, say, "Oh, I misread it. Sorry, I'm an old man." And I think everybody would have laughed at that and let it go. But nope, you're our DARF for the week, Dave.
Yeah.
And
Posting through it.
God.
Anytime you're posting through it, you're a dog.
that's a fact. God, what is the sentence? I didn't have time to think about this because I was so busy celebrating. I think the punishment
Death.
is going to
Death.
be... Well,
Death.
no, we're not going
It's
to...
always death.
Over there in the Republic of Brian. But how about this? We'll split the difference. We're going to let Brian be the call screener on XM for Dave's show, and we'll give him a taste of his own medicine there.
All right, I'm
There we
gonna
go.
pick all the best callers that'll swear and call Dave slurs.
Yeah. You... Well, I think that's about it for the regular segments here, and I think it's about time to close the door on the septic tank. Come on and down, folks, because we got us a good one this week. I think we all three were pretty well in the septic tank for the entire weekend with the Gateway Dirt Nationals and the Snowball Derby and all the festivities at Five Flags. And one of my favorite weekends of the year. And I usually I'm kind of got half an eye on the illegal stream of the Snowball Derby while I'm watching Gateway. But this year, since it was on Flow, I could have it just up all the time. No worries whatsoever. By the way, I hope anyone who reached out and asked for a special little link that we had, I hope you got to use that and I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. Again, we're happy to share this stuff when we can, and this weekend we were able to. So good stuff there. But yeah, I've said this on the show before. I care a little bit less about pavement late model racing. I almost said pavement dirt late model racing because that's to show you where my brain is at. But I care less about late model racing and super late racing than I do most dirt stuff. So the coverage of the Snowball and the Snowflake and all that is going to be a little more thin than the Gateway Dirt Nationals. But yeah, starting on Thursday. God, how many cars were there? I know there was 150 invited modifieds that came to the show there. And I think there was about the same amount of dirt late models that showed up for this thing. A couple of highlights as far as paint schemes are concerned. Let's see here. Casey Burdett showed up with some pretty standard looking cars, but he also had the greatest shirt we've ever seen on sale at the merch booth, which I believe a friend of the program, Kyle Armstrong, picked one up for me. So thank you very much, sir. It just says on the back, "Welcome to Gapplebees, 2-for-1 sliders, open 24/7." Of course, Casey
Nice.
Burdett from the home of True Love's boyfriend and the Carpenter family, Parkersburg, West Virginia. Good stuff there. We'll post this design online because this shirt is
Parkersburg's finest.
incredible. Also, I think the coolest, probably not the coolest paint job of the weekend or wrap, but definitely the coolest concept. Bobby Pierce showed up with a naughty and nice Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer car, complete with a little blinking red light for Rudolph's nose, which they rolled off the trailer with it, and Flow Racing took a nice picture of it. By the time they got on track on Friday, Bobby said they'd removed it. He said it figured it would get broken anyway. And then magically they show up on Saturday with the light. You'll get to hear my excitement about that later once we get to the Saturday portion of the septic tank. But man, this thing looked fucking sick. Bobby Pierce always kills it with the paint schemes, even though they're a little busy sometimes for my taste. They're always fucking interesting, and I know both of y'all like Bobby Pierce, so
Yeah.
it's a nice little deal. Also, Ashton Winger had a crime committed on him at Supercuts, and
See, I was wondering what the backstory of this was. So.
yeah, he said that if he won the prelim night, he was going to shave his head, which he didn't, unfortunately. But then while they were asking him about it, he kind of showed the side of his head where he got clipped a little too high. It just looked kind of like he was wearing a bad toupee, and yeah, kind of makes sense. I feel like head was going to get shaved no matter what, but I was an honorary Ashton Winger fan for the rest of the weekend because I just wanted to see him get that shit taken care of because it was not good. But yeah, what else happened Thursday night? Goodness, there was a lot. Mike Spatola, your Okie from wherever he's at, not Muskogee. I forget what town he's from fucking Oklahoma, and Missouri folks don't like that, so he got booed a little bit. But Mike Spatola won the late model feature, and then Ricky Thornton Jr. absolutely smoked him in the dirt modified feature. Good racing through and through. Super racy racetrack. Gateway has a bit of a reputation for being kind of a one-lane deal. That was not the case this year, particularly on Thursday night. Top and low groove were fully in there, and some guys are able to run the middle too. And yeah, ripping the fence was certainly a risky proposition the entire weekend, which we'll get into later. But man, great racing on Thursday night and a hell of a show through and through. You guys, oh yeah, and over at they were at fucking Five Flags as well. I flipped over to that at some point, and then I think once they wrapped up at Gateway, they were probably getting started with the fucking sport truck feature or whatever. And we posted this on our Instagram, but I don't know what it is about these old dudes wanting to stand out there like the lineup guy with the clipboard just in the middle of the track, like to get them lined up or whatever. This kid in the Seven truck just about killed this dude and the Flow Racing camera guy, and it was real close.
I know we had did a poll and the majority had agreed that it was the truck's fault, but I gotta blame the guy because he was not waving his arms. He was staring off into space in the wrong direction. And he was wearing a dark purple and green jacket covering up his neon shirt that was underneath. So, just zero survival instincts on a hot track with children driving.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think the rest of the Seven Trucks performance dictated the results of the poll because that kid went out there and was an absolute menace the rest of the night. I think he wrecked like 3 times and
Of course he did.
almost got fought, even though one time it wasn't exactly his fault. But yeah, absolute weapon. I think the correct answer really, and I guess I could have put this as a poll answer, is both of them. All of the above.
Yeah. For sure.
Also, Noah Gragson and William Swalowicz kind of got into it in practice a little bit. That might have been on Wednesday, but I guess William was on a flyer. He was doing a qualifying sim, and Noah was out there just kind of minding his own business, just driving. and William came up in the middle of turn 1 and just kind of sent him in practice. Didn't wreck the car, but definitely that would have pissed me off as well. So Noah Gragson starting off what was not a great weekend for him through and through, with a little contact from one of his Xfinity Series competitors. So
was it Dillner that was interviewing Gragson after that?
Yeah, great interview with Matthew
Gragson
Dillner.
kept calling him a dip dot was his term that he said about 5 times.
Yeah, and I'm far too old to understand what that means.
Same.
So.
I had to Google it, and I still didn't.
I feel like it's just a censored way of saying dipshit, personally.
Yeah.
Well, you can say dipshit on Flo. He could have said that.
He could have, and boy, did they. There was a lot of cursing this weekend, which we'll get to in a couple minutes here.
Oh, real quick, though, we didn't even mention this. So Noah is now endorsing a new nicotine pouch brand. No more Zins. He has a new Zin, fake Zin deal. I forget what the name of the brand is.
It's
but
Alp pouch.
There you go.
ALP pouch.
I think they have stronger pouches available than Zin does.
He kept posting tropical fruit 9s was his choice of the weekend. So.
I thought he was a 3 guy. It's stepping it up.
No, he's a 6 man. I said he was
nines,
probably a 3 guy.
This weekend.
I was the one who said that Noah strikes me as a guy who puts 3s in a 6 can and walks around, but yeah, I guess he's upgraded to the official Tucker Carlson 9s, which I think is what those are. I've never actually seen that brand in person, but
No.
I'll give it a shot. But he had a nice little Zen holder on his steering wheel, which I thought was cool.
Which seems like a safety hazard. It seems like you crank that wheel too hard and that
Thing's gonna roll
Zen's
out.
gonna go flying.
Oh man. Well, I think that's it for Thursday night because we got about halfway into that truck feature, and I just said, "Fuck it, I am not staying awake to watch this." Like I said, I love the Snowball Derby. I think it's a great event. But the rest of the events outside of the Snowflake, I could care less about. I think the Outlaw late models are kind of cool. Those are neat cars, with the little bubble cockpits and all that. But those Florida modifieds can suck me. The truck features are always a bloodbath, and whatever else. I honestly, the best race of the night that I caught out of the corner of my eye was a fucking Crown Vic feature. So that should tell you all you need to know about that. But side by side, clean racing, if you can imagine that. So. I guess Crown Vic parts are hard to come by because there's so many of those divisions around the country now. But, yeah. It is what it is. But anyway, Friday night. Let's get into the good shit here. I kind of blew over this one talking about wraps and paint jobs and all that, but Zane DeVilbiss brought my personal favorite one out. A New Mexico driver now living, I think he's in Indiana now or Ohio or something like that. He's living out in racing country now, but he came out with this beautiful half and half scheme. The right side of the car was Crown Royal, and the left side of the car was Coca-Cola, which, what the fuck?
It's great.
I don't know if that's actual sponsorship or if he's just risking the cease and desist from two major brands, but boy, that thing looked hot. Great looking race car. And he did okay throughout the weekend. I believe he made the big show, but nothing too remarkable. Wasn't really ever close to the front. The other really fantastic looking race car out there was Ryan Wilson's number 4 late model. He wins the Applebee's Best Looking Late Model Award of the weekend. Lots of awards getting handed out in this show because this is the last one of the year. Straight up Miller High Life Bobby Allison throwback. Absolutely beautiful race car and very period correct, and right down to him reenacting the 1987 the 1987 Talladega 500 where Bobby took the catch fence down because old boy did the exact same thing.
Yep. And then cut a really great interview afterwards.
One of the greatest interviews I've ever heard in my life. My favorite quote from it was, what did he say? About this point, I was thinking, oh shit, and I'm looking at them beautiful fans up there. Completely ripped the fucking fence down, and was one of the several hour-long delays we saw to get the...
Yeah, that was definitely the hardest part of watching Gateway, was the multiple fence repairs that had to be made that took like anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half each time. I guess it gave you time to switch over to other stuff, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the beast with these indoor races. At the Chili Bowl, like, fence repair is, pretty haphazard, and you don't see them go through the fence like you do at Gateway just because the cars are lighter, but when you got these, several thousand-pound late models flying through some Tractor Supply chicken wire, it's going to take a while to fix it, and there was a few of these delays. The other big one was Darren Weisinger Jr. He took a nonstop flight out of the dome and just went completely through the fence. Got his car stuck on the wall. So that was probably the longest delay of the night. Which brings me to my second gripe with Five Flags here. Again, we've talked about the concept of Southern time on this show before at the racetrack. And so those stupid little Florida modifieds, which aren't modifieds, they have like weird fenders and shit. I just don't like them. I'm sorry. I'm a Yankee in that regard. These are not modifieds to me. They started the feature up right about the same time as they were rolling the super late qualifiers off. Maybe it was a B-main. I can't remember. Anyway, Darren flies through the fence. Takes forever to fix. They bring the modifieds out. There's another wreck. They got to fix the fence. And I'm thinking there's at least an hour of downtime here. And I flip over to Flow Racing to see what's going on over there, and they still got 33 laps in this modified feature that started at the same time. What have we been doing this whole time? What the fuck have we been doing? It's insane. Insanity. But yeah, move the show along, please. Maybe that's why they got the guy out there in the middle of the racetrack, is to, point at his watch and get these fuckers moving. But yeah, that's enough complaining about Five Flags for now. Another highlight of the night was Dakota Smith hauling ass down the front stretch to pay Dean Carpenter a visit after they got into it. That made SportsCenter, folks. That's how funny that was. Old boy, a very large dude, we'll put it that way, just in a full sprint, and just completely goes Clint Boyer on Ryan Newman at the All-Star race, and just trying to rip this guy's helmet off. Not a soul from track officials, team members, anybody went in to stop that. They just kind of let him shake this guy's head like a baby back and forth in the car.
So there were a couple funny things that I picked up on that. One, he even admitted himself. He's like, halfway through running there, he's like, oh shit, this is a bad idea. He's like, I already started, I gotta finish.
Yeah, you don't start a run like that without finishing what you set out to do.
But then I was completely shocked that the dude he was attacking was very clearly much older than him. Like, I thought it was gonna be some little dumbass kid, but it was like an old man.
Same.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then to find out it's Tyler Carpenter's dad, I was like, oh, okay.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
No, it wasn't Freddie. It was another Carpenter, though.
Oh, okay, my bad. Too many Carpenters.
Too many Carpenters.
Way too many Carpenters.
Got a lot of Kyles and a lot of Bobbies in our life, and there's a lot more Carpenters out there. So,
Yeah, security showed up at the very end and just like gently tapped him on the shoulder. I was like,
Well, like, what the fuck was he gonna do anyways? He's in the car. Like, how? I mean, he was clearly trying to like rip his helmet or his visor off or something. But it's like there's hardly any space to even put your helmet on in the car. How the hell are you gonna get it off?
yeah, they're big cars, but the cockpit is very small. So,
Yeah.
that was really entertaining, and it went on for a long time.
the most confusing part to me, though, of the whole scenario was they interviewed him afterwards, and he's standing there barefoot in gym shorts. I was like, why? Gross. I was so repulsed by having to see that man's bare feet.
Oh my God, that's good. I forgot about that. Thank you, True Love. No, speaking of Carpenters, another funny thing that happened over the weekend. Flow Racing asked Tyler Carpenter which driver he would want or wouldn't want to date his sister. I can't remember which way it was, but it doesn't matter because
It was wooden.
And Tyler says, "I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. If you're crazy enough to date her, then good luck." So, yeah, it was pretty much Friday night. Ricky Thornton Jr. picked up another prelim night win. Of course, he won the modified feature on Thursday, stomped him in the late models on Friday. Automatically became everybody's favorite to win. No one has ever gone back-to-back in both features, or swept the weekend, rather. And I don't think there's anyone who's been as close as Ricky in that regard. And if anyone could do it, it is Ricky Thornton Jr. So I was very excited about that. I know a lot of our listeners were as well, based on some of the conversations I had with y'all this weekend. Which, by the way, thanks for tuning in on Instagram over the weekend. Me getting drunk down in my basement and just kind of playing around. It's a lot of fun to talk with all y'all, and it was, my phone was buzzing the entire night with people from all over the country tuning in, talking about dirt racing and shit. So that was really cool, and definitely a lot of fun.
Just like you were buzzing off those strawberry cream tequila shots.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I have another nip from that competition, or the advent calendar, by the way.
I have a strawberry cream cough drop in right now. Not
Very
quite
nice.
the same.
Also, Trevor
You
Neville.
take enough of those, you could probably get drunk.
It's true. Make some strawberry tequila meth. But yeah, Trevor Neville and the 777 getting the late model feature win there too. Sorry, the modified feature win, which we'll talk more about him later. That's also a really cool looking race car. Once again, I didn't really pay much attention to what was going on at Five Flags after that. Who knows? I'm sure there was probably a vintage race or any number of pro stock or fucking street stock madness that was going on there. But I'm sure everyone had a good time. But that brings us to Saturday, the big show at Gateway. Of course, that started pretty early to get the non-qualifiers race in. I didn't watch a second of that stuff other than the fact that I keep seeing cars stacked on top of each other, which is typically how these big events go. The racing gets better as the night goes on because all the chumps get eliminated, which was the case here. I had a buddy come over and we drank some beers in the basement and hung out, and honestly, like, we were down here for a few hours and he took off, and I turned around and they're just now about to get started with the actual qualifiers for the night. So those features took up a lot of time. No real highlights there. A lot of crumpled Donald Trump sheet metal coming out of those features, which was funny. But
It was a very Trumpy day, start to finish.
other good news from the night, though, Kenny Wallace won his qualifier, everybody. Wow, Herman. He's probably one of the big stars of the Dome. When you think of the Dome, you think of Tyler Carpenter, obviously. That's kind of where his notoriety came from. Obviously they've done other stuff with the chassis company and his family legacy, but the Dome is really where he became kind of a star. And
For his singing abilities.
yes. Well, for Kenny, he's got a long NASCAR career and all that, but I've never seen Kenny Wallace have more fun than he has at the Dome, especially when he's running good. And he looked pretty hot. He definitely won his qualifier, started in the feature in 10th. Kind of stayed there, didn't really do a whole lot. Kind of getting ahead of myself here, but yeah, you got to hear Herman sing a little bit. Also, there was a little feature of them asking him about Nelly on Flow Racing, and he just went on some random Kenny tangent about how he likes Dua Lipa and George Jones, and just like a random selection of music that Kenny Wallace likes. Yeah, everyone likes to see Kenny Wallace have a good time. So the Dome was very pleased with that, as was I. As far as there was plenty of big wrecks and a lot of fence repair that went down. One of the ugliest ones, of course, was Logan Velos and the modifieds. Absolutely left the ballpark, landed on his lid, and that was probably the scariest one of the whole weekend. Usually people get kind of hung up on the fence and sort of cascade down. This one he just went straight through and landed on top. And that was pretty scary. But I don't know if he's old enough to drink, but I hope he had a couple beers after that, regardless. Even if he is like 16 years old, who gives a shit? Give this kid a beer. That was probably the flight of the weekend right there. Let's see. What else? Meanwhile, the Snowflake 100 ran, and Stephen Nasse picked up that win, much to the chagrin of most people. But, clean race. Did a good job. There was a really nasty wreck. Casey Roderick just about got his car ripped in half. Connor Jones was involved, but I don't think it was his fault. But just since his reputation is what it is, I'm going to go ahead and blame him, even though it's probably unfair. And he had nothing to do with it. I'm just going to blame Connor because that just seems right. What do you guys think? Yep.
Sure.
Perfect.
The one thing I did notice, I guess I don't know much about Steven, but maybe this is his sponsor all the time, but I noticed that on Saturday his car was sponsored by a funeral home and crematorium, which is great.
I don't know, actually. But I did notice the flat black suit, which makes sense. Steven is, of course, he's a very nice guy, apparently. I've never actually met him, but I've never heard anything really bad about him as a person. Off the racetrack, he's super nice, but definitely a bit of a menace on the racetrack, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But congrats to Steven. The Snowflake's a tough race to win, too, so good for him. Meanwhile, back at the Dome, I guess we're just about to get to the features here. I just got to say, I don't know if you guys know this about the Dome or not, and there's even a little Flow Racing short about this, but there's a big rivalry between Tyler Carpenter and Gordy Gundaker. And I don't know much.
I did not know that.
I didn't know much about Gordy, but obviously you know about Tyler because he's Tyler Carpenter walking around in Hey Dudes and being just a dipshit all the time.
Flippy hair.
Always entertaining as hell. He's got 48 people coming out the fucking Dome with him in driver intros, He's just West Virginia, and they come, and I love him for it. But Gordy, I've learned over the past year, is just a straight fucking dog. For some reasons I can say on the show and some that I can't, but from seeing him up on stage singing Brooks and Dunn with Dirty Grass Soul at the World 100 with his kid in his arms, to just listening to him talk and put on a show all weekend, I ride for Gordy Gundaker now. That guy's a fucking straight dog with that Tim Richmond throwback. And I just got to give a shout out to Gordy because anytime I come across that guy, he's making me laugh, or I go, yeah, that's fucking badass. So big time Gordy Gundaker fan. What do you guys think about that? I know that, Brian, you were kind of feeling a little bit better about him this weekend.
Like I said, I think he looks like Jake Gyllenhaal playing Tim Richmond. And yeah, I was cool with him up until, as I'm sure Ashley's going to point out, did a little Trump dance. But other than that, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I was kind of actively rooting against him after his silly little Trump dance, but that throwback that he did, it was whatever. But his paint scheme colors were white and purple and orange. So to me, off first appearances, he just looked like redneck Denny Hamlin, and he kind of gave off kind of douchebag vibes, but I could be wrong. It was the Trump dance that ruined it for me.
Dance aside, Gordy's a cool dude, but you're right. That throwback is a little hard to execute on a dirt late model because there's so much extra side of the car. Like you guys know the Tim Richmond scheme that was based off of, right? And the stripes are a lot tighter, and that one is amazing.
I'd honestly have to be shown that because I know a lot of Tim's cars, but that one didn't really strike a chord with me.
Yeah,
it was one of the earlier
Hendrick
ones.
Honda scheme that he ran in Busch Series, I believe.
Yeah, that's I can't even remember if I've ever seen that one. So you'd have to show it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was another.
He had some nice chest hair, though. I will give him that.
He does have chest hair. Yeah, that's true.
He had that part of the throwback down.
Well, this leads us into driver intros, which of course is one of the hallmarks of a good Gateway weekend. The bottom 12 or 15 or whatever don't really get much fanfare. They just kind of come out and wave and all that. But then everyone gets a little bit creative coming out of the tunnel. Before that, though, another touching Scott Bloomquist tribute, kind of shining a light on how integral he was to Cody Summer and the gang getting this thing going. And Scott saw the vision almost immediately when they started talking about it. And I mean, Scott is one of the ones who kind of kicked the driver intro thing into high gear, walking out with fucking Rico Abreu on his shoulders. And, it's a really funny story about Cody giving Scott $200 to go out and do the crotch chop and get the crowd fired up. And that he did. And yeah, just, it's been such a wild year of racing for me personally that, the calendar, in some ways, time has flown by really fast, and in some ways, some of the stuff feels like it was years ago. And honestly, going to Scott's funeral and his passing, that feels like a long time ago, considering how much has happened in my own personal life and stuff we've done since then. And, it's kind of crazy to be reminded that just happened. But one thing's for certain is that Scott's legacy is certainly not going away anytime soon. And it was felt very heavily throughout the weekend, and will always be felt at the Dome because that event was custom built for Scott Bloomquist, who won it before. So, but anyway, driver intros were good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that video tribute that they did to him before the intros was very well done, and I did not expect to be brought to tears by a video clip of him doing the crotch chop to pyrotechnics. So.
Well, welcome to a whole new level of crying going forward. It's a lot of crotch chops, but... The highlight of the driver intros was, of course, Ashton Winger. His crew brought a stool out in front of him and a pair of clippers, and he sat down. I was like, my God, they're going to shave this man's head and finally set him straight. But they only took a little stripe out of it, which made it worse. And then he went in the car and did not win the event. So hopefully he's out there walking around with it, thinking about what he said. So But I'm sure Ashton Winger has a shaved head now. Anyway, the feature, let's get into the features here. The late model feature was awesome. Brandon Sheppard absolutely walked him, started from the pole. It's his back-to-back win for him. Some other guys had a shot at it. Gordy Gundaker led for a little bit at the beginning, but it eventually faded to about 6th, I think is where he ended up. Nick Hoffman was in the mix a little bit. RTJ was always in second, kind of chasing him down. I don't know if he was pacing himself or he just couldn't get to him, but unfortunately he eventually broke and pulled into the infield quicker than anybody I've ever seen. I guess it was a pretty serious failure in the car, and he got off the racetrack as you're supposed to do. All the young kids, pay attention to that. Don't draw the yellow. Just dive straight into the infield at 300 miles an hour. Let's keep the show moving, please. But really, the show of the night, obviously Brandon Sheppard was whooping everybody's asses, but Bobby Pierce coming from pretty much the back of the field, he was on a fucking mission with the blinking Rudolph light on the front of the car. He said he wasn't putting it back in, and there's that fucker blinking right there. And I swear to God, that's what led him all the way to the front. He caught Brandon Sheppard, and then he also broke on the last lap. Right, he was going to have one shot to slide B-Shep, and the car just broke on him right at the 11th hour, and unfortunately he was unable to get there. But I'm not a big Bobby Pierce fan, but you got to almost pull for him at that point when he's going to come up there and win it in such a dramatic fashion. But I don't think anyone's mad at a Brandon Sheppard win. He's a good guy, and everyone likes Brandon Sheppard. So
now, I know I'm new to the dirt world, so I'm just kind of picking up drivers as I go along, but Bobby really won me over watching him at the World Finals because I just thought he was so fun to watch. And then again on Saturday, he was so fucking fun to watch going from 12th to 2nd. But I did notice when he came out in driver intros, he got very loud boos, so...
Yeah.
I still have much to learn, but he was the one I was pulling for, so...
Well, there's a lot of accusations of cheating and dirty driving and blah, 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 and he's somebody's kid and all that, But, I mean, there's no denying that Bobby Pierce is one of the best to be doing it right now, and people hate winners. That's kind of what it comes down to. Ricky Thornton Jr. gets booed, too, and it's him and Bobby right now at the top of the heap, so I guess that's to be expected.
That blinking nose really put me in the Christmas spirit.
It really did. after the race was over, though, there was a little bit of a fight, to say the least. Still really don't know exactly what happened, but I know it wasn't Steve Shepard's fault. But Tyler Carpenter thought it was, apparently. And they got to beating and banging. It was Hudson O'Neal who got into to Tyler and kind of cleaned him out a little bit and caused him to fall back. And I don't know if there's no message to be relayed because there's no radios, but Super Shep and Tyler Carpenter decided to do a little Bowman Gray action, kind of running into each other and all that. And, it's kind of what you're talking about with the dude running up the track. It's like you start doing it, and it's like, well, I guess we're going to bring this to completion now because we've already begun the shenanigans. And, I don't know. The whole time I was like, they better fly that fucking flow racing drone back to Carpenter's hauler because something's going to go down here. Yeah. They didn't get the drone back there, but they certainly had one of the pit cameras back there to watch Steve just take this guy down, and a whole pile of white dudes come in there. And I saw one little dude trying to get in there and break it up, and he got absolutely ripped back, snapped his neck.
Tossed. Oh, that was the best part of the whole thing. Just chucked from oblivion.
Yeah, and I guess there's, there's only, when you're trying to break up a big scrum like that, you start with the smallest guy to get him out of the way, and unfortunately he was the smallest man in the pile, and boy, he got sent halfway to Kansas City when he got pulled out of that shit. But I guess all was good. No one was too mad after that, and Super Shep gave a hell of an interview, and said fuck around and find out on the broadcast, which I thought was great. Again, you can just say whatever you want at the Gateway Dirt Nationals, and I'm here for that shit.
Well, not all of
Flo. Have to go to Rwanda.
Yeah, he's not going to Rwanda anytime soon, buddy. Let me tell you. Sorry, Brian, what were you saying?
I was going to say, in all of Flow, you can fucking swear. It's great.
You can fucking swear. It's amazing. Yeah, it's the benefit of not being on television is there's no FCC to tell you what you can and can't do. And boy, these guys take full advantage. And again, my favorite part about this weekend, and there's been a lot of talk about Gateway of, where it sits in the sort of racing world. Is it a crown jewel? Is it not? It's definitely a little bit more of a show than, say, anything you'd see at Eldora or Knoxville or, any of the big late model events, East Bay, that kind of stuff, But, I mean, there's $30,000 on the line. The racing is hard and good. And, guys definitely let their hair down a little bit and they have a little bit more fun than they would in a normal racing weekend. But there were 30,000 people packed into the Dome on Saturday night. And Lord knows how many more were watching at home. So, I mean, this is arguably the biggest dirt race of the year now by sheer attendance. So, I mean, there's no question about by attendance alone. So, Gateway's here to stay. They already announced the dates for next year. I forget when they are. It's around the same weekend. But one thing I was told by a friend of the program, Kyle Armstrong, who was on the property all weekend with Kenny and the whole gang having a good time, was that last year when they went to the Dome, Kyle was able to book a hotel immediately after the Dome, and it was ready to go. It was just, it was super cheap. It didn't break the bank. It was pretty much right next to the Dome from what I gather. And this year he tried the same thing, and he couldn't find a damn place that wasn't sold out already. So this event has crossed the threshold into being something bigger than it was last year, that's for sure. So, and I'm excited to see it grow, and, who knows, maybe they'll open up the top sections next year. But hell of an event through and through. I love the shit out of this. And, again, like, you just look at the car count and the talent that's there. Like, there's not many folks that you wouldn't find at a big event like the World 100 that aren't there. So you want to go see Jonathan Davenport fucking try and fight his way out of a B-main, this is the place to do it. So I'd love to go see the Dome, and I guess I'll be staying halfway to my parents' house if I ever do, because all the hotels are booked up. But yeah, great show through and through. Also, Trevor Neville getting the big modified win there. It pretty much swept the weekend, fastest car in hot laps. He won his prelim night and got the big feature win, so that's a nice check going home to him. I think it was $10,000 maybe. I can't remember, but whatever. It's good money for modified. So.
Also, in the modified intros, Uncle Kenny came out and did a little mime dance where he had a string attached to his hip.
That was good.
Cut with invisible scissors. So silly. So good
stuff. But yeah, I can't think of an event that is more fun than Gateway. So I look forward to watching it next year, hopefully in person. But if not, then I'll definitely be out here in the basement for all 3 or 4 nights if they ever expand it, because there's definitely room to do that. It's definitely cool shit. Also, a quick shout out to Kyle and Kenny. They, of course, you fly into the St. Louis airport to go to an event in St. Louis. That makes plenty of sense. But previously this year, we referenced the NASCAR Cafe, which has opened up in the St. Louis airport. And they stopped in for breakfast there because their flight was at like fucking 0 o'clock to get out of there. They essentially just left straight from the dome to get to the airport in time to pass tech and get on the plane. And they had enough time for breakfast, though, and stopped in. And the way Kyle put it was, there ain't damn much here by way of decorations. So it sounds like an airport restaurant.
Yeah.
With the shitty NASCAR
Very
logo
sterile.
on it. Yeah, which is, I think, what we expected. I don't even need to ask what the eggs or anything tasted like because I've been to an airport before. I can draw my own
powdered.
conclusions. Yeah, they're definitely a little gritty and all that. But yeah, any closing thoughts on the Nationals before we move on to the Snowball?
No, I mean, I just had a great time watching it, and the track itself was wild, just seeing the cars bounce so much. Like, I can't imagine driving a full race like that. But,
Dude, that video of Bobby Pierce just like...
Yeah, all 4 wheels off the ground.
Yeah, it was wild.
Absolutely incredible. Sunday, of course, there's still more racing, so we're talking 4 days in a row of top-shelf, primo short-track racing. Of course, the Snowball Derby down at Five Flags. I've done nothing but bitch about Five Flags this entire show so far, so I'm going to give you some positive here. That place is legendary. The Snowball is a must-watch event. It's kind of a NASCAR light event, and it plays out like any long pavement race tends to do. You know, there's a lull in the middle. And Ty Majeski dominated that lull. And I don't think there was a person on the planet who would have bet against Ty Majeski for most of that race because he had it dialed in pretty much the whole weekend. And I think most folks
took a
were...
little cat nap during that domination.
I think most folks had already written the check to Ty Majeski. But then, with about, what was it, 30 laps to go, something like that, Noah Gragson does a little lazy loop, probably because his Zen got stuck under the brake pedal and he couldn't get it wound up. And
It flew out. He was reaching for it.
yeah. Like, shit, I can't do that, and then spun. And then throughout all that, Caden Honeycutt was able to get around Ty Majeski after the pit cycle and got his first career Snowball Derby win. Not before puking on himself and not before having Stephen Nasse almost take a shot at him.
So close.
Yeah, Ty definitely faded pretty hard. Both Honeycutt and Stephen Nasse were able to get past him, and Stephen was coming. He was so fucking fast. And he took a nice little gateway swipe at him. Got the nose kind of underneath Caden, but just could not get there to put the bumper to him or the fender to him, and that was it. And Caden went off and won the race. Congrats to him. I know a lot of people are excited to see Stephen Nasse finish second. I myself also being one of those, but you know, it is what it is. Good stuff. But yeah, poor Caden at some point in the race puked himself very badly.
He said he puked from excitement from winning. I was like, I've never puked from being too excited about something.
I don't think I've ever been.
Yeah, that's what Noah did more than once, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever puked out of excitement.
No, I've never have.
Maybe as a result of things I did because of excitement, but you know, never.
I try to avoid puking as often as I can. Like,
boy, it was gross. It was like a cat puke.
It was so gross. Oh, it was so chunky and
and this poor kid,
brown.
he's trying to do the interview, and they bring a team shirt out to him, with one of those like pit
little half zip
crew shirts with a little half zip on it, and of course all that did was just cover up the clean parts of his suit and accentuate the puke under the collar.
You gotta zip it up, bud.
Yeah, just get this guy some paper towels instead of a pit shirt. But yeah, well-deserved win for Caden. He's got a big year in the trucks coming up next year, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot out of him. And I mean, etching your name in the Snowball Derby record books is it's a huge deal. I mean, this is, there's not many races with the prestige of the Snowball Derby. There's not many I can think of off the top of my head. In the short track pavement world, there's none bigger than the Snowball Derby. That's for sure. It's definitely up there with, the Knoxville Nationals and the World 100 and events of that caliber, the Chili Bowl, so this is king shit. And Caden Honeycutt has etched his name alongside some pretty insane names on that list. Darrell Waltrip, Bobby Allison, all those guys. It's fucking insane. So good for him. Definitely a little bit of a diminished field this year. due to costs, due to just logistics. There was another late model race happening that weekend as well. That was a little more affordable to run, but snowball. It's still the biggest race of the year, and like I said, Caden's got his name in the record books now, so can't take that away from him. And he passed tech too, so everyone loves to see that.
Yeah, he was able to get a shower and clean clothes while they were in the tech shed.
Yeah, Tony Stewart style. This is good stuff. But yeah, that's just about it for the septic tank here. One more note, the Chili Bowl entry list continues to grow. I think there's over 260 entrants on it now. Kyle Larson has announced. And also another NASCAR star, Christopher Bell, is making his return to the Chili Bowl this year. That announcement coming courtesy of Chase Briscoe, returning the favor for Christopher Bell blowing Chase's big JGR announcement. So I don't know who he's running for, but apparently C-Bell's returning to the Expo Center, and that's going to be fucking awesome to watch. I mean, he's a menace on dirt, and he just his name alone on the entry list puts everybody on fucking notice. So we're gonna have us a hell of a time out there. I just bought my tickets to the Chili Bowl. I'm gonna be there from Thursday to Saturday. I think I already mentioned that on the show like 8 times, but it's official. There's no turning back now. I will be there. Alex Hammett will be there. Kyle Armstrong is gonna be there. Man in the Simpson trailer, go buy a hoodie or a fucking helmet or a fire suit from him and just go say what's up. It's a hell of an event, and I cannot wait to be on the grounds. And watching the Dome this weekend, it just made me so fired up because that event seems to feel pretty much the same as the Chili Bowl does. So cannot wait for that. But that's, 5 weeks off? Something like that? Less? It's coming.
It's coming.
Judging by the cost of the plane ticket, it's a lot closer than I anticipated it being when I did that. So it is what it is, but I'll be in Tulsa, fuckers. We're going to have a good time. So we're going to go ahead and
those stories again.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And we got to get both of y'all out there at some point.
Yeah.
To see all the beauty and the glory of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the surrounding areas like Broken Arrow, where the Hard Rock is. So
take your Chili Bowl flu shot before you fly out.
yeah, which is apparently a neti pot. So, all right, let's flush this fucker down. We still got some show left here.
Well, looks like it's time for the Video of the Week segment, and for this week, to wrap things up, I chose Neil Bonnet's winners, except this one was about Neil himself. Now, unfortunately, like when I briefly found this clip to watch it, I did not realize that this is actually kind of a two-parter. I guess the week before, they did an episode that kind of focused on Neil's life right before and right after his Darlington wreck in 1990 that ended his career, at least at that point. Which definitely, there was some stuff I would have been interested to learn about, such as his merch and fish farm businesses, which, couldn't find much about that stuff online, but would have been cool to see that. But
if that ever pops up and someone sees it, make sure to send that over to us.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of winners episodes up on YouTube that you can watch, but that is not one of them, unfortunately. However, this episode was pretty good, and this one was actually a little more of an abbreviated tale of his kind of origin in racing and his career and whatnot. It starts off with DW giving a little recap of the previous week's episode, but very quickly, Dale Earnhardt shows up, and he is tired of DW's shit. He says DW doesn't know anything about fishing, so he's taken over the episode and grabs Bobby Allison, and they're there to tell the quote-unquote real story about his life. There's obviously a lot of talk from all of the Alabama gang members, and this was filmed, had to have been 92, or maybe even 91, but I'm assuming probably 92 because Davey's in this. This is before Neil was testing for Earnhardt for a little bit before he got back in the car in 93. They kind of allude to that a little bit, but they don't really talk about it. This is kind of still in the post-accident part of Neil's life. They talk about how, Bobby says that Neil is an exciting short track driver. He came to work for the team with the goal of eventually getting in one of Bobby's cars. And eventually the opportunity came to where Bobby was kind of double booked one weekend and gave Neil one of the cars to go race. I believe he says in Texas later on, and which he ended up winning in his first time out in the car. Which was cool. And then Bobby says in about a year and a half span from that moment, Neil ran like 60-ish races and won around 40 of them, where in that same period, Bobby himself only won about 20. So he's worried about losing his own ride there. He had a lot of praise from a lot of his, competitors and people that he's worked with in the sport. You got Red Farmer, you've got Junior Johnson, Warner Hodgson, Len Wood, Buddy Baker, Dick Trickle, Davey, Donnie Allison. They're all there to kind of say how good of a person Neil is off the track and on the track, how solid of a driver he is. Buddy Baker had a funny little quote saying that he was as tough as they come, and he had a short neck, so he didn't tire out as much, which I thought that was a weird comment. Now, after that little segment, we actually meet Neil's parents, which it's crazy to think about. Like, when Neil died, he was only 48 years old. He was around 46 when this is filmed. Neil is one of those guys that's looked 50 pretty much from the moment he got the moment he got on the scene. He always looked super fucking old. That makes me feel weird watching this being 41 and Neil's only 46 in this episode.
Yeah, dude, I had the same thought.
We look massively different. We meet his high school sweetheart wife, who said he wasn't even a driver when they met and didn't even really start racing till he was around 22 years old, which these days is old. Back then, maybe a little bit on the older side, but still not the worst launching point. There's a guy named Butch Nelson that comes in, and I guess he put him in one of his sportsman cars while Neil was a pipe fitter's apprentice. And then Neil tells a story about working construction and also being the apprentice, and says he was sitting 20 feet off the ground on a beam eating lunch one day with like a 60-year-old coworker who was warning him he's going to get hurt in one of those cars one day, which unfortunately was very true. But that immediately got him out of the construction job and just focusing on racing. Get a little stat rundown of some of Neil's numbers. He first won in 1977 at Richmond. First driver to win the Busch Clash, and that kind of harkens back to what everybody else was kind of saying, that he could win and perform well on just about any type of track. From here, we cut back to Dale and Bobby, who Bobby says a very, couldn't come off more wooden saying this. He goes, "Ken Squire, I like him. He does nice work." And then Dale comes right in and laughs, goes, "Ha, he's better than Waltrip." Dale was just perfect. It just makes you wish he was still around, because he would be so good on TV these days. But
Bobby was definitely a man of very few words in this.
Yeah, he did not have a whole lot to say. There is a funny story that Bobby tells here. I guess they met when Bobby was in his 20s and Neil was around 18 or 19. And I guess the couple cars that they were running at the time, Bobby was running that Coke machine car. I forget, it was Mercury or Ford or what, I don't know what the fuck car it was, but it was early 70s or the 70s. And Bobby had the Coke machine, while Neil had what they called the drink box, which was a much shittier car. Bobby even alludes to the fact that it didn't actually mean drink box, very clearly meant the shit box. Yeah. So that was pretty funny. Red Farmer talks about how Neil was the fourth member of the Alabama gang, and Donnie Allison chimes in with, once he started winning, that's when we added him to the gang. Again, just so many quotes. You get Chris Konamaki in there saying he was one of the first drivers he noticed that really paid attention to the car itself, which I can't, I got to take his word for that. I guess I don't really know what drivers were like in the 70s and early 80s as far as attention to detail. I mean, Mark Martin was definitely up there too. I mean, he can remember spring setups from 40 years ago. So
yeah, no kidding.
If that tells you anything. Then, sort of the end of the episode, Neil's at Charlotte, and he's talking about, I think it was 88, he broke his leg real bad in the 75 car. Then we get some clips of Dale and Neil fishing and just bullshitting on this lake at Dale's house, which is, heartwarming. Warner Hodgson says Neil doesn't catch a whole lot of fish, especially with Dale. At one point, they're in one of Dale's garages, and they're looking at one of Dale's Busch cars. And Dale kind of gives him shit, saying he's not going to get back in the car because he knows he can't beat him. Then they tell another little story. Actually, no. They show a clip of a bunch of different Neil wrecks. Like, he did have a lot of big wrecks in the 80s. Obviously, I mean, it's kind of how his life ended, unfortunately. But then this cuts to Neil jumping back in the studio, and he's all giving him shit for being in his space and whatnot. One of the things Dale chides Neil about is needs to get him back out on the track because he owes him one. I guess in the last time they got together in Richmond, Dale got into Neil, and then Neil got him back. Neil claims that it was an accident, whereas Dale goes, I didn't mean to too much. Which, you know, if he go ask Rick Mast what Dale Earnhardt does sometimes, because there's been he's told some fun stories, but just getting randomly spun out by Dale for no reason. And that pretty much is the end of the show. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm not gonna lie. When Neil walked into the studio, I was shook because I spent this entire episode thinking this was like a tribute to him after he had died, because every single person they interviewed talked about him in the past tense.
Yeah,
so,
straight up.
And I know that this winter's episode, this winter's show, like they continued it after his death for like 5 or 6 months. So when he walked in the studio, I had to rethink everything.
I
wasn't expecting him to show up either.
Every interview was past tense, so I thought these were like all old clips and.
Well, it's all past tense in the sense that like his driving career was over.
Right,
I guess,
right. That's
at least
I put
at that
together
point.
after his living flesh body walked in.
Yeah.
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 And then the very last little bit of the show, we see Neil getting some makeup put on, and says once he's got to start wearing lipstick, he's done. So that was the episode. You know, it was a nice little watch. Like I said, unfortunately, I wish we could find the first part because that'd be interesting. And yeah, I mean, if you want to watch this and more Winners episodes, there are a bunch up there on YouTube, including there is actually a Neil Bonnet, you know, post-death tribute episode as well, which I figured that'd be a little too much to end the season.
What a great show this was. I grew up watching this on TNN pretty religiously. One of the only ways you got a really inside look at these guys and got to see their personalities off the racetrack. And yeah, it's just a really special show, and I'm glad that most of it is up on YouTube so you can experience it now. But yeah, it just kind of reminds me of being in my grandma's house when I was a little kid, because that was always on TV, and often Neil Bonnet was on there too. So
looks like a grandma's house too.
it does.
I can't remember if that was filmed in his actual basement or not. I kind of think it was.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Also, too, speaking. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is head and shoulders above so many recent videos that you've picked for us.
Oh,
lately,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you know,
nice little palate cleanser to send us off into the winter.
I was going to pick a decent one for the last show. Also, too, you know, before Winners, there was a show that was on TNN called The Great Drivers, which was hosted by Brock Yates, I believe was his name. Kind of a similar vibe. So there are some episodes of that. That's more mid-'80s, so... if you like this type of content, it's out there on YouTube.
Yeah, it's the Diamond P guys, right?
Yep, Diamond P. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, no episode, no video of the week, because you know we'll be back next month and picking some new stuff out. But
the break is actually very short for us, much like the racing industry. So.
Yeah. But in saying that, since this is the last episode of the year, you know, we asked. All of our listeners and followers, what their favorite racing moments of the year were, as far as, you know, I guess going to the track or watching TV or whatever. I'm going to leave it to race events that I actually went to. But we want to start with our comments or the fans' comments first?
Let's go to the fans first and see what they had to say. We got a few of them, a few really good responses from Instagram. And I did a little straw poll amongst some friends as well to see what they had to say. So we'll just go straight to Instagram. Miles1320 said his favorite moment of the year was the mannequin falling from the bridge at the IndyCar race this year. That was really good. Yeah, so did I. That was funny. Tattered Checkers chimed in, giving a shout out to Alex Payne in his first Super Dirt Series Big Block win. That was in Canada, I believe. I forget the name of the racetrack, but yeah, loves to see the big emotion in Victory Lane. I think we all do too. One of our favorite accounts, NASCAR Pulp, said, seeing Blaney win at Pocono. Security eventually quit chasing us from the closed front row. So, guess they're getting harassed by the yellow shirts at Pocono, which that'll happen. Photographer extraordinaire Nick Zeb says, Brad Sweet's right rear versus James McFadden. Boy, that was some shit this year. Brad Sweet tried to launch the Aussie off into space in Oklahoma, and yeah, he has not come back. He's not racing anymore. So, not because of Brad Sweet. He wants to hang out with his family in Australia, but I'm sure getting sent into the stratosphere a couple times was enough for him. Stop the Clock says Buescher, Reddick, and Keselowski 3 wide on the front stretch at Darlington. That was a fucking awesome moment. I was standing up for that one as well. Dash JDE, I don't know how to say your Instagram name, bud. Sorry about that. But he says SVG versus Larson at the start of the Chicago Xfinity race. That was fucking incredible racing right there. Watching 2 of the best of the world go at it on a street course. I really enjoyed that. And our good friend Alex Hammett, Lex BMX on Instagram, says the Chili Bowl in Knoxville goes without saying. Of course, Alex and I were at the Chili Bowl this year. We're going again in just a few weeks. And he crewed for Jacob Allen at the Knoxville Nationals. And, of course, that's a... I know he loves sprint car racing more than most anybody, and I can't imagine what it was like to be down there in that fucking hornet's nest, refueling a car with Bobby Allen yelling at you to not spill it. So, good shit. I also reached out to a couple former guests here to see what they had to say. Matthew Dillner sent me a message saying that the World 100 weekend celebrating Scott, and you're going to hear this a lot coming up here. Celebrating Scott Bloomquist. Getting to know him was just a blast, interesting person. And then also it's going to the Snowball Derby. I know both of those events mean a lot to Matt, and I know it's really cool to be an integral part of bringing those events to people. I reached out to Kyle Armstrong, Kenny, and my good buddy Justin, and James Honeycutt as well about the same thing, and they all agreed that the World 100 was a very special weekend. Getting to take in, for better or worse, Scott Bloomquist's memorial service and just the racing in general. I mean, that was a really special moment for me, which I'll elaborate on when we get to our own responses here. Also, Kenny said all the DARFs melting down after Larson and Buescher got into it. That was good. And Jay Pennell also, he says definitely not Tulsa, which I can understand why. But hanging out at the World Finals was the highlight of the year, just having the group together, sharing beers and laughs and watching the dirt fly. And I'm gonna pretty much say the same thing in a few minutes here, but yeah, that was definitely special. But what about you, Brian? How you feeling?
Well, I mean, World Finals kind of goes without saying. I mean, we talked so much about that I don't need to get into it. Aside from that, I mean, again, I don't want to talk about the stuff I watched on TV. Being at Darlington, though, for the spring race was really, really awesome. Just getting to see all that stuff up close.
Sorry, I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
It is your neighbor.
Waiting for this thing to turn off. Jesus Christ. Shut up, Alexa. I didn't even say your name. There we go. Yeah, that was great. I mean, seeing the Buescher Reddick thing right there in front of me and getting to see, this is my second time seeing Keselowski win in person at Darlington, so that was really cool.
That's cool.
And then, yeah, I mean, World 100, probably one of the best dirt races I'll ever go to. Obviously, hanging out with Rob and Kyle and everybody, that was a great time, and getting to experience Eldora. And yeah, I mean, I guess while it definitely was not the greatest experience overall, it was very cool to get to go to Pennsboro. I'm glad that happened at least once. We'll see what happens next year, if anything. But
very cool. You got to experience that. Yeah. How about you, True Love?
Let's see here.
I know you went to more NASCAR races than all of us, that's for sure. And I think you actually camped more than we did as well. So
I did do some of that. I didn't write down how many NASCAR races I went to. I think it was like 8 or 9 this year, but. For me, some of my favorite moments were getting to go to a NASCAR race with my boyfriend Andy for the first time together this year. We went to Atlanta, Talladega, and the Coke 600. We also went to the Dega Dirt Track, Dixie Speedway, and my first Bowman Gray experience. So.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you went to Bowman Gray. Yeah, that's fucking cool.
I also went to a bunch of NASCAR races with my brothers. The most we've been to together. We went to 5 together this year. So being at that first Atlanta race this year, seeing that 3 wide finish in person was crazy.
Yeah.
My first time to Las Vegas Motor Speedway this year. Check that off the list. Camping at Bristol this year with all my, favorite friends. And then I did it again at Martinsville. But definitely Dirt Finals was my favorite
Nice
race experience this year. Just hanging out with you guys and so many of our racing friends. So, and that was my first big time dirt race too. So
yeah, it was a good one.
A couple on track favorites that I wasn't in person for though that I'll throw in was Chase won at Texas in the Hooter scheme, which Hooters aside, I just enjoyed seeing him do that tribute to Kawicki. And SVG's full course drift when he won at Portland was great.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. That was nasty.
The Wood Brothers 100th win, and we can't forget Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse fighting. So
that has to be. Yeah, Kenny also brought that one up. He was like, "You're not going to talk about that on the show?" I was like, "I'm sure we'll get to it," but I did love that very much.
Yeah.
Oh God, I guess it's my turn. This year has been the craziest year of being a DARF I've ever had. So I got a lot, so I'll try and keep it as succinct as possible. I was trying to pick out one particular moment, but there's just been so many little pinpricks of sunshine in the whole thing. I couldn't possibly. Just getting to the whole Chili Bowl experience is awesome, but getting on Thursday night, walking down there with Alex and Dillner on the surface of the racetrack and kind of taking in the dome after the features had wrapped up with all the exhaust in the air and, just the place is fucking trashed, from a whole day of racing and standing on the surface after watching this at my, pretty much my mom's kitchen table for the past 10, 12 years or whatever, because I always end up going to see my parents in January. It was just an easy time for me to travel with work schedule and all that. And when they lived in New Mexico, it was warmer. So it was a no-brainer. Now they live in Arkansas where it's just as cold as it is here. So that kind of sucks. But it does mean I get to go to the Chili Bowl now. So I guess, I take a trade-off here and there. But to actually be standing in that building and on the surface and take this place in for what it is, after years of watching it on a laptop or, on a fucking 7-day Fubo TV trial or whatever, It was pretty remarkable, and definitely a very important moment for me. Obviously going to Scott's service this year and just that whole World 100 weekend was really special. I still haven't really processed the fact that I was there for that event, but the whole weekend was just insane. And my favorite on-track moment of the year was just watching Dale McDowell up front in that feature and just the feeling in the stands. I don't think there was a person there who didn't want to see him get the win, which is why they were all so mad at Tanner English, I guess. But yeah, it's just super, super special. And then, of course, obviously the World Finals, that goes without saying, just having kind of a collection of all these people I've shared all these random moments with throughout the year in one spot was fucking awesome. Also, getting to follow Carson Lofton at Stafford around, that was really cool. I've never been there to a racetrack on business, so that was neat. As far as NASCAR is concerned, my favorite moment of the year was definitely getting to witness the rain tires at Loudon and watching him run dirt late model lines around that place, and the race was actually good for once. So that was really special. And again, just camping out there with my best friends it's always special. And for me, it always comes back to the people. I say this every single time we have this discussion. It's the folks you get to meet and that make this thing so special. And I think all of us are, but I don't want to speak for anyone else. I feel particularly blessed that I have some friends that I think they feel this a little different than a lot of people. Maybe I'm just making assumptions here, but most of the people I talk about racing with or go to races with or experience this thing with, they kind of understand the gravity of it a little bit more, and there's always something that connects to something else in all of this. And I think we all kind of feel it pretty heavy when we're there and just how special these moments are. And there's nothing like being at the racetrack that causes me to kind of just be there right in that moment and understand it. Like, I'm never going to experience this particular thing again, so I better take it in right fucking now while I'm here. And that's hard to do in life. So, I love you guys, and I love everyone we've had a chance to hang out with this year. And one last little piece, I feel like I've overstayed my welcome on this segment, but it's been really awesome over the past year to connect with my actual relatives, some blood. over racing. You know, my cousin Jim. I know he's going through some health issues right now, so I'm praying for you, bud, and I love you. And my brother-in-law Tommy, of course. And my father-in-law came out to the finals, and he got the full fucking experience hanging out with all you guys. So it was really cool to be able to share those experiences with these people and find an actual like family relationship through racing. Which, you know, I know True Love, you mentioned that going to the track with your brother and all that, but it's really, really special when you have those moments with people you're related to, and it just means a lot. And last but not least, thank you to all you guys for listening this year. It's been fucking awesome doing this show, and obviously there's more to come. There's no question we're going to keep doing it. Most podcasts don't make it past 20 episodes. We're at 90 right now, and there's no end in sight here. And if anything, it's just to keep talking to you fuckers and hanging out with y'all. So we really appreciate it, and you definitely enrich this whole experience and this racing thing to a degree which I can't even express. So thank you.
Yeah, every time those Spotify raps dropped, I'm shocked. Every time someone's like, yep,
You were in the top.
My top podcast. It's like, oh, us.
And one more thing. If you guys are following along this weekend on Instagram with my adventures down here in the basement, covering, we're media now, bitch, covering the Gateway Dirt Nationals, my good buddy Adam, there's an advent calendar in my house from him and his wife, and the week while my wife and his wife were gone, the advent calendar was all liquor for me, and I've got the last one from the week here. I'm going to open it up right here on the show and take it down for you. It is a Dr. McGillicuddy's Butterscotch Nib. God damn it, this one's fucking rough. So I'm going to coat my stomach with sugar, and I'm going to raise this one to all the people who made this year so goddamn special. I can't express how important everybody that I've shared some time at the racetrack and off. I can't express how special you are to me. You make this thing so fucking worth it, and you know, there's plenty more to come. So cheers. As I take the
we love y'all way more than fucking butterscotch flavoring, that's for sure.
Oh boy.
Well, that's thick.
Oh.
That's a thick nip. There's no alcohol in it, but it's thick. So.
Disgusting.
Well, you want to shut her down for the year?
Yeah. As always, you can follow us on Instagram at meetmeatapplebees and on Twitter at meetmeatapplebees. Probably, I'm sure we'll be posting there a little bit throughout the next month, and we'll give you an update as far as when we're going to be returning, but sometime in January. As always, you can follow me at Speedway Screens on all the things, speedwaytsj.etsy.com. You still got a couple days to get those Christmas orders. And I actually had one person use the Applebee's code, so MMA Applebee's at checkout for 15% off.
A very sweet Davey Allison jacket, mind you.
Oh, yeah.
That thing was awesome.
It's a good one. It's still Snake Mountain, True Love. I won't have anything to share in the off season.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any racing related plans coming up, but I don't know, maybe scoot up to Charlotte, go to some museums or something to kill some time. We'll see.
Very nice. Yeah, hopefully I can get down there too. Rob Motes _unofficial on Instagram. My band is called These Wild Plains. We'll have some shows coming up throughout the winter. Honestly, the show will probably be back by the time anything pops up, so it'll all be breaking news by the time the show kicks off, which I think will be after the Chili Bowl. I think that's usually when we'll pop in for at least one episode to kind of go over those events and all that. And it's going to be a wild one this year, so I'd say it's worth a check-in with you guys to make sure you're all behaving. And also the new Charlie Murray record is going to be fucking killer, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that one. I don't know when that's coming out, but I'm sure we'll be sharing some stuff from that pretty soon. And like I said, oh yeah, quick shout out to Kyle Ayala, because out of all the new racing dogs, I really love that guy. He's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll have him back on the show next year as well. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, thank you so much for listening this year. It means the world to us, and there's plenty more to come for sure.
Yep. Cool. Well, the check is here. Thank y'all for joining us at Applebee's this year, and we'll talk to y'all in 2025.
All right.